If I go exceed your expectations, please refer me 3 clients. I invest my marketing dollars into the relationship. You could do things together as you start building your team. They could come in with absolutely no money and come away with a home. Happy Monday, everybody. And it's that time, Real Estate Edge. And so let's go ahead and get right into our lesson here. Winning offers, multiple offers in creating the right scenario when you have multiple offers and what the situation looks like. So, well, thank you for coming on this Monday. I have this Real Estate Edge every Monday. My name is Jeffrey DeSusa. I've sold over 500 homes in the San Francisco Bay Area. I built a large organization, and we do over $500 million a year, 8 years in a row. So with that being said, I love helping agents, and this is my contribution to those agents and in the industry. So today we're going to be talking about winning multiple offers in situations, controlling leverage with both the listing agent and buyer's agent. So why multiple offers matter? Well, if you're from the Bay Area, whatever the market's doing, whether it's going up, down, sideways, there's always multiple offers, especially in those locations that is very desirable, where the demand is very high. And, here in the Bay Area, there are a lot of people who love real estate. So you're always going to have a multiple offer situation. Whether you're representing the buyer, you need to know what's going on, or you're representing the seller, you need to know how to handle the situation. So because today's market is very competitive, multiple offers, it maximizes leverage opportunity, what side you're on, buyers or listing side. Agents who control the process win more deals and get higher commissions. Understanding leverage. Leverage, you get the control of the outcome. So listing agents control terms and price escalation. On the buyer's side, it controls the position and strategy. So the goal, shift leverage in the client's favor. Okay. Listing agent mindset. Well, you are the market maker. So if you're representing the seller, you're the one that's creating the market. So you create demand, not just list the property. And the job is maximize the price, terms, and certainty. One of the things is when you're pricing out a home and getting it on the market, having the right strategy and the right price is the key. So creating a multiple offer scenario. On the listing side, strategic pricing, pre-market hype, offer deadline strategy, open house timing. So, I like to list properties over here on the open house timing. I like to list properties. If it's a really, really, really hot market, then I'd like to list on Thursday. If it's a slower market, I like to list the property on Tuesdays. Okay, so Tuesdays is a day if the market's a little bit slower, because I want people to be able to plan their weekend. But when the market's hot, buyers are always in they're always online searching for that property. So it depends on the situation. And then next here, hold on, please. Controlling the narrative. Use agent remarks strategically. Okay, when you're the agent, using the remarks strategically. Set expectations. Seller prefers clean terms. Looking for strong financing. Right? Buyer guides without revealing too much. Okay. Leverage offer terms. From the listing side, focus beyond price. Financing strength, which is cash versus loan. Appraisal gap coverage. What does that mean? Well, if there's a competitive market, and whether you're representing the seller or the buyer, And if the appraisal comes in lower than the offer price, there's a gap. How do you fix that? You need to know how to fix this, whether you're representing the selling side and the buying side. So for example, if you're on the selling side representing the seller and there's a difference in from the appraisal price and the offer price, who's going to cover that difference? Well, on the seller side, if the buyer has a large down payment, you could always lower the down payment to cover that gap, if that makes sense. Okay. If you're on the buyer side, you got to be able to understand that by protecting your buyer and understanding that you put an aggressive offer in, and if there's a gap on the appraisal, you need to know how that buyer is going to qualify for that gap, especially if they have a lower down payment. So, and you need to be able to explain that to the selling agent or on the offer. Okay, we can always get into that. I have a few videos on appraisal gap coverage. So inspection contingency, closing time, best offers, highest price. Counter offer strategy. Well, usually if you're representing the seller, countering offer the top 2 or 3 only, not all the offers. Like if there were 10 offers, you wanna counter only the top. Okay. Doesn't make sense for to counter those that maybe has a horrible offer or lowball offer. Create a second round bidding war, or use phases like seller is requesting for highest and best. So what does that mean? That means where, let's say again, you're representing the seller, you got a few offers coming in, and then you realize they're very similar, nothing really stands out, which is very common. All the offers came in, they have a similar down payment, they have a similar price, similar, just a very close to one another offer. And so you use a phrase, seller is requesting for highest and best. So please redo your offer. And that could create another bidding war. I mean, I've done this multiple times and been able to increase these offers with better terms and so on. Maintain control of time. Okay? You got to really maintain the control of time. Okay. For the buyer's agent mindset, you are the strategist and negotiator. Your job is to make your offer stand out and not just higher. Okay, this is really important, especially, if you're representing a lot of buyers, you got to know how to not just get the best, offer the highest, but how to make your offer stand out. One of the things that is a must, especially if your buyer has a loan, is make sure your lender calls a listing agent. I think that alone is one of the things that really gets me, because I've been doing listings since 2009. Mainly, I say around 80 to 90% of my business is just listings. And the one thing that really gets me going is when someone makes an offer, even if it's good or bad, but the lender calls me and they introduce themselves, they talk about the client, they talk about the ability of the client, and they give me a summary of this client. That makes me feel at ease. Okay. So if you're representing a buyer and you want to really have the listing agent on your side, have your lender call them. Okay. So winning as a buyer's agent, we'll call the listing agent. One of the things is as a listing agent, when someone just submits an offer, there's no letter, no explanation who the buyer is, etc. They just submit the offer. That's really not the way to go. You want to call the listing agent and you want to build rapport. But even before you write the offer, these are things you want to ask. What's important to the seller? What's the ideal closing time? Any preferred terms? Okay, so when you're representing the buyer, it's good to call the listing agent. One, it builds professionalism, it builds rapport, but also it gives you, you could get the information you need to help your buyer get the winning bid. Structuring a winning offer, earnest money deposit, uh, appraisal gap guarantee, flexible closing, or even leaseback, clean contingencies, right? I mean, I think all these four, if you could hit these on your offer every time, you're going to get more offers accepted. And what's a strong earnest money deposit? I'm going to talk here in the Bay Area, maybe not necessarily in other states, but here in the Bay Area, a good strong earnest deposit is 3%. Okay, 3%. So when they make an offer, they're going to put 3% down with the offer if it's accepted. Appraisal gap guarantee, like I said, if how are you going to handle it if there is a gap between appraisal and your offer price? And then flexible closing. Some of the ways you could win a bid is by shortening up the closing time and giving free time for the seller to stay in their home and move out. That makes sense. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. Clean contingencies, meaning shorten up the contingencies. I don't like to do a non-contingent offer, meaning once they accept the offer, there's no turning back. I don't like putting my buyer in that position unless if the buyer is savvy. The buyer is a contractor. This is not their first rodeo. The buyer has to have some type of knowledge, expertise, or experience. Okay. You don't write a non-contingent offer for a first-time buyer. That is just a tough position to be in. I mean, sometimes in the Bay Area you have to, but you want to protect your client, and by writing a non-contingent offer, it really puts the buyer in a tough position. Yeah, and then once you do that, then you can't be backing out without possibly losing the earnest deposit. Good. Psychological advantage, right? Personalize the offer, have your buyer write a letter, human connection, be easy to work with. Agent choose certainty over chaos. So when you're dealing with the listing agent, you want to let them feel at ease, that it's going to be smooth when they work with you. And if you could convey that through a letter, through communication, showing them you're a professional, showing them that you can do it. I mean, even if you're new, but if you could communicate well and make that listing agent feel at ease, then that'll be great. Because I mean, there's just some that are they just know how to convey a message, and no listing agent wants chaos. Okay. I've been on many chaotic 6-month closings, probably one of the longest, if not the longest closing, if I remember. It was just wild. And a lot of that had to do with the buyer's lender. I was just dodging and making excuses. And imagine doing that for 6 months. Tough. Escalation clauses, use strategically, protect your buyer while staying competitive. And this is what I was talking about, keeping your buyer protected. Ensure clear cap, proof of competing offers. Common mistakes that both sides do. Overpricing kills competition. Poor communication, weak lender, no pre-approval, ignoring terms beyond price. So when do you usually and almost always you have to have a pre-approval? Okay. I mean, there's some very rare instances I didn't have any approval just because I knew my buyer well. But on the other side, I knew the seller. If I was representing the buyer, I knew the seller. I knew them, they knew me, they know that I know my stuff. So I didn't have to get a pre-approval. But eventually I had to submit a pre-approval to them. Okay. advanced tactics, pre-inspection, rent, seller rent back options. I just covered that earlier. Waiving minor contingencies. Yeah, you could waive minor contingencies. Backup offer strategy. Okay, so these are just advanced strategies that you could put in place. Communication wins deals. I've been saying this, so fast response time is super important. I love when buyers, agents, they respond to me fast, they text me fast, they email me, especially when we're putting the deal together. A professional tone, super important. Always be professional. Clear, clean, and clear offers. Agents prefer working with agents who make deals smooth. That is true. Okay, here's some key takeaways. Okay, control the process, control the outcome. Price attracts, terms close. Communication creates leverage. Strategy beats emotion. Okay. Don't be emotional. I know a lot of agents, and I've a lot of co-agents be very emotional when it comes to this. It's hard not to. My wife is emotional. She does loans. So, but I always tell her, take the emotion out, and your job will be a lot easier. Of course, we're 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 empathetic to our clients. We understand that everyone has situations, of course. We want to help, but on the emotional side, don't make emotional decisions for the clients or advice. All right. Well, thank you again. It is Monday. I try to do this within 30 minutes. We have a lot to do. There's so many things that we have to take care of during the week. And as we prepare this week, Monday is going to be, I'm sorry, the weekend is a good time to do open houses. So if you are looking to do open houses, talk to your team lead, reach out. We'll help you get some open houses. It's important that you do them because that's where the low-hanging fruit is. And what I mean by that is uh, buyers are walking in open houses and the neighbors are walking in. And those neighbors that are walking in is golden because they might be looking to sell. So until I talk about that, I have so many videos on that alone because, like I said, I do mainly listings since 2009. So, I was a single full-time parent, and to control my time and to be there for my daughter and not be chained to this real estate life, I became a listing agent primarily. Of course, I work with buyers all the time. I close buyers all the time. But a broker once said early on in my career, if you have listings, you have buyers. So you remember that. But, you have to work with buyers to get to the listings. Okay. So, all right. Well, anyways, have a good week. Wednesday is the shift. I might be changing up the program there, but I do training on Wednesday right before the weekend. So until next time, thank you and have a great day. Make it a good day in real estate.